Many black women over 30 are not marrying, not because they don't want to, but because there is a serious shortage of black men. Today, a look at the problem and how some single women are coping with the idea that they may never marry on today's edition of Folks. Hello everyone, and welcome to Folks. A study of the marriage patterns of Americans that was released earlier this year caused mass panic for women of the baby boom generation. It said that only 1 out of 5 American women over 30 would ever marry. There are simply more single women than men to go around. The man shortage in America is a reality, but it has been a reality in the black community for some time now. There are many reasons for the shortage, of course: war, mortality rates, incarceration, drugs, and so on. But what we want to tackle today is how the male shortage is affecting black singles day to day. Now, later on in the show, we'll have several outstanding single women over 30 who will share their experiences with us. But first, let's take a look at what singles at large had to say. In the past, college campuses have been a good place to find a mate. Many a mother has sent her daughter on to college hoping that she would come home with a degree and a husband. We talked to students of all ages at Southern University to find out their attitudes towards the shortage of black men.
It's always good for a single man to have one or more outlets, okay? You have one or more aces in the hole, okay? And also, it's just like a rat. You know, a rat has many corners, right, to go into your house? Correct. It's also, I think it's be the same thing for a young man to have a lot of young ladies, you know.
Well, that's probably because they didn't take the wiser road and get married way ahead of time.
I prefer an older woman. In the past, all I've gone out with have been mainly older women.
Assuming she's 40 and she looks like 20, or she looks like about the same age as me, it doesn't matter to me. If she's, let's say, 19 and she looks like about my age, or she have the same intellectual communication, you know, that's okay with me.
It doesn't affect me anyway. It doesn't affect me anyway.
Although the marriage crunch worsens for all women after age 30, younger women are also learning to cope with the declining numbers of single black men.
Actually, I've been by myself for quite a period of time. I put my objectives first. My school comes first. My family comes first also. The man shortage, I'm 21 years old. I'm not really looking to settle down at the present time. I just have fun.
No matter what the situation is, I would never lower my standards as far as to share or to go in that sort of situation. But I guess I just deal with the situation as far as if there's someone that I'm attracted to, and if they are available or single, I'll date them. And if they're not, then I'll just deal with it and go without.
Life is becoming more and more competitive, and that men looking for a good male companion is really hard. It's really hard, and a lot of women, I believe that they lower their standards, you know, when looking for a male. They settle for less. I think that they should just keep their objectives as they are, and that they should, you know, keep striving to make themselves better than worry about trying to find a man that's on their level. And if they strive, you know, to make themselves better, it's going to come to them.
It's hard, but, you know, you just take your chances. You just go out and have a good time. I found that I don't go out looking for a date anymore. I just go out, and if I meet a, you know, young man or something, I won't give him my number. He'll give me his, and I'll call, and then that's how we meet each other, but it's hard now.
We also found out on the college scene, in order to avoid the marriage crunch, most young people thought it was a good idea to marry before their 30s.
Well, I feel that at age 30, a person is more stable in their life. They have a chance to pursue those avenues that they've never had a chance to pursue before, basically extensive dating.
30, 31, I prefer to be settled down, have my place, and be more or less into my career before I think about making the thought of getting married.
For the career-minded female looking for the career-minded male, I think the late 20s, age 27 to 28, because I think when by the time you graduate from college, you're about 23, and by the time you get your career rolling, you'll be in your late 20s. I think that's the time that you should start thinking about a male permanently to settle down.
When you got a good job. No, seriously, I say about 24, 25. That's a pretty good age. Hoping, having a job is very important because, they say love doesn't put food on the table, but I say a good age is about 25, 26.
I think if someone was to get married, I think somewhere around 27 or 28 years old. Why? Because at that time, you're in a stage that you have passed a few of the blimps or the downfalls.
Derringer's is one of the most popular night spots in Baton Rouge for black singles. On just about any night of the week, folks come here to unwind and meet people. The patrons here have also recognized the surplus of single black females.
There is a shortage of males because of the mortality rate for one.
I really couldn't say. You just come out, see what you can see, and hopefully they're not married. And just come out and have fun, that's about it.
It's not a shortage, it's just good single black men. There's plenty of black men out there, but not the good ones.
What makes the male shortage worse is that men traditionally marry women who are younger than they are. In view of the male shortage, how is this affecting mating choices?
I think women over 30 nowadays don't look like they're 30. So I think they have just as good a chance as an 18-year-old. But 18-year-olds look like they're 27 now. So I think they have a fairly good chance, better than most.
Basically, ever since I was 24, it sounds kind of crazy, but it's very true. All of ladies that I've dated have been over 30, from 29 to 34. But I have no problem with the age. My preference is younger women because there's a distinct difference. And for example, I may ask an older lady, would you like to go to the movies? She may say, yes, what are we going to see? Whereby I ask a younger lady the same question. Would you like to go to the movies? Yes. That means that there's no, she has no, what kind of word I want to use? There's no conflict.
Age isn't really a factor because he could be younger or older. It just depends on the person.
If you're a single woman, your chances of being married diminish considerably as you age. For black women, especially college-educated black women, the problem is made worse by the even lower numbers of black professional men. In 1960, there were 100 black males with a college education for every 156 females. In 1970, the ratio rose to 100 males to 161 females. In 1982, among blacks 35 to 54 years of age with 5 years or more of college, there were 52,000 eligible women for only 15,000 eligible men. All of this contributes heavily to the demise of the traditional black family. The statistics show there are fewer single black men available for dating and marriage as we mature. How does this affect our lives day to day, and who really benefits from marriage anyway? With me here to discuss these issues are Lacey Tillotson, Associate Professor of Social Work at Southern University. She teaches ethnic family courses and specializes in the sociology of the family. Rosemary Jackson is a financial consultant for Professional Financial Consultants, Inc. She enjoys aerobics, weightlifting, and canoeing, and she is active in her church activities. Beverly Robinson is a chemical analyst at Allied Chemicals. She's also an attorney, active in civic organizations, and enjoys outdoor sports. Felicia Burchell is a communications specialist for the College of Agriculture and Home Economics at Southern University. She is active in community organizations and church, and she likes to cook and read. They are all single, and welcome to Folks.
Thank you.
Felicia, knowing that statistics prove the fact that there are more single women over 30 than there are men, how does this affect you day to day?
Day to day, Sonia, I don't think it really affects me because career keeps me busy, home keeps me busy. I think the times it affects me are those times when I'd like to have an escort, when I'd like to go out to dinner, when I'd like to have someone to take me to a particular event where I think I'd like to have a date, although I've not gone because I didn't. And I think that's how it really affects me. Day to day, I don't really think about it.
Okay, well, do you feel like men have the advantage over women after 30? As far as finding partners?
Well, as far as finding partners, they do. But I think that we are a lot more mature and are not as anxious about not being married, and our lives are full. I don't know a single woman who sits around and moans and groans because she's not married, you know, or she has nothing to do. Most of us have careers or children or a combination thereof that keep us very busy.
Well, do you feel a sense of competition with younger women?
Sometimes I do, because I think the younger women are those that they feel they can control and those that they think that they can mold into what they'd like for them to be. And I'm set in my ways. You know, I don't think at this point that I would make a dramatic change in the way I live just to be married.
Rosemary, I saw you shaking your head enthusiastically with Felicia. Do you feel that the man shortage affects you from day to day?
My point of view is similar to that of Felicia. And Felicia and I have a lot of things in common in that we go to a lot of the cultural activities such as they are in the Baton Rouge area. And there are those times when I would prefer to have a male escort, but of course I'm one of those courageous types. If there's something interesting out there that I want to do, I just venture on and, you know, and do it. But I do have to admit that there are those occasions that I would prefer to be escorted. There are times when I borrow some of my other girlfriends' boyfriends or whatever. I just borrow them every now and then.
Do you feel a sense of competition with younger women?
I used to. Of course, I wouldn't say that I am overly enthusiastic about the fact that I see so many of our males are dating and are marrying the younger person, but of course different strokes for different folks. You know, if that's what they choose, yeah, so be it.
Okay. Beverly, how about you? Do you find the man shortage a reality in your life? Does it bother you from day to day?
You mentioned the male shortage, and I really don't think there is a shortage of men. I meet men all the time. Now, I think there might be a shortage in the quality of men, but as far as a shortage, no, I don't think there is. And I think the articles that Essence puts out, or Ebony, they tend to make women feel that it's a desperate situation. You know, I'm almost 30, I'm not married, I've got to have a husband. And I think that's so ridiculous because if we go on with our lives and just not put our life on hold, you know, like I can't buy a house until I get married. And some women tend to have time slots. Well, by 25 I want to be married. Well, I want to have my first child by 27. And it doesn't always work that way. So I think if we don't put our lives on hold, and if we are just receptive to our good, that someone special will come into our life.
Well, the next question, of course, is do you feel a sense of competition with younger women? I know I do. When I was 22, let's say the men were pounding at the door all the time. Well, it's not that they've all stopped pounding, but the numbers have definitely decreased. Have you found that to be true in your life?
No, not at all. I think most men want a woman who is career-oriented and who has her head on straight. And I have never felt the age crunch. Now, some men prefer younger women, like Rosemary said, someone that they can manipulate and control, but that kind of man you really don't want to be bothered with anyway.
That's right.
You know, Sonia, I've come to a point in my life where the rule of thumb for me in male companionship are the 3 E's. You have to enhance, enlighten, and enrich. And anyone that can't do that, I just classify them as dead weight, and I don't want to be bothered anyway.
Felicia.
Yes, ma'am.
Who gets the best deal out of marriage, men or women, and why?
Who gets the best deal? I think it's kind of sad that we have to say who gets the best deal. You know, if it's an equal partnership, then there should be no best deal, you know, in the situation. I don't know if I can answer that, Sonia, because my marriage has failed, obviously, and I don't know what kind of deal I got. Obviously, it wasn't the right one.
I guess what I'm referring to is a few months ago, I believe it was Ann Landers, either Ann Landers or Dear Abby, did a poll, or somebody did a poll, and they asked whether or not you would marry a group of married people. Would you marry your spouse again? And most of the men said yes, and most of the women said no. So I just wanted, from your point of view, whether or not you thought men got the better deal or women.
Sometimes I think that they do, because women, I think, have such a powerful sense of what we should do. We should have careers. We should be perfect housewives. We should be perfect hostesses. And we try to live up to those ideals. And it's difficult to do, but it's perfectly okay for a man to work 8 to 5, come home, sit in front of the easy chair and watch TV and read the newspaper. Nothing else is expected. But we try to live up to the perfection in all our roles. We try to be, like I said, perfect at work, perfect at home. We try to be perfect lovers, perfect companions. And that puts a lot of pressure on any person. So I think that they probably do get the better at the end of the deal.
Rosemary, do you agree with that?
I don't necessarily agree with the stereotypical titles attached to all, quote, marriages, because I know I have some very good friends that their marriages are equally shared. And I do feel, however, that we as females have a more nurturing type of attitude, and I think we impose a lot of those dues on ourselves, you know, to conform to the norm rather than what it is that we desire, because there's so many things that we say are expected of us, you know, because a lot of those things have just been handed down to us.
Now, honestly, Rosemary, what would you cite as the single biggest problem that women over 30 have with finding available black men?
I think availability. You know, finding someone to, you know, fit into your lifestyle. You know, my biggest problem is availability. And it's not that I have a Cinderella type syndrome that someone is going to come in and rescue me. You know, I'm not looking for that. I wouldn't be silly enough to suppose something like that. But I think it's primarily availability for me, according to what I perceive as those things that I would want in a companion.
Okay. Lacey, from a sociological point of view, is this a bigger problem for single black women over 30 than for any other race?
Well, according to the statistics, the male-female ratio is quite imbalanced, and there is a greater imbalance in the male-female ratio for black men and women. So it is indeed a problem. I think the severity of the problem has not been clearly defined, however, because the statistical reports tend to take different approaches in defining the problem, and with the different approaches that they take, it's sort of hard to narrow down the problem in terms of specific terms. However, all of them tend to indicate that the male-female ratio imbalance is greater for black males and females, and particularly over 30.
Is it that much harder for professional black women to find available men?
Well, according to the marriage and family literature, it is somewhat more difficult for the professional black female to find a mate. And this is true because, first of all, because of the imbalance in the black male-female ratio. But there are also some socioeconomic factors, such as the larger number of professional women who are single, either single, never married, or single due to divorce, separation, or widowhood.
Okay. Well, that leaves some alternatives. Ladies, what about non-professional black men, laborers? How about younger men? Is that a good option for any of you?
Oh, I can definitely say, yeah, but again, I come back to that old key word, availability, like what is available according to what it is that I want in an individual.
Sonia, another point, I think it's important that we clearly define what qualities we want in a male.
Okay, you first.
Okay. Well, I tell you, I've given this a great deal of thought. And I think most of all, I want an individual who has compassion and who wants to be a companion and who is kind, uplifting, nurturing, those kinds of things, and who is interested in your program. So many men, and especially the professional men, they're so caught up in their own thing that they don't think your thing is important.
That's right.
And like, ooh, what you doing? You know, it's no big deal. And I consider my career just as important as a man's career. So what I do, I guess I make a list and I look at the negotiables and the non-negotiables. And the negotiables are those things that you can kind of compromise on. But non-negotiables, you know that they're those traits that you must have in order to be happy.
Okay, well, where do you meet men, single men?
Well, now working in a chemical plant, you know there are a lot of men out there. Girlfriends might have friends who have friends, that kind of thing. Walking my dog. You know, I might meet a man. It's just no time at the grocery store. I mean, it's limitless. You know, you can meet men anywhere.
Felicia, how about non-professional men? Is that an alternative, a reasonable alternative?
Sure. I'm not stuck on a degree or a position. I'm looking for somebody who is compassionate and who wants to share his life and my life. And that means share the problems and the good times. And I don't think that that can be limited, you know, and I shouldn't limit myself by saying, well, I have to have this kind of person, a person who makes X number of dollars, because you really start to narrow down the field if you do that. And I think that a non-professional man can be just as good, if you'll let me use that word, as, you know, a professional man.
Sonia,
yes.
Excuse me, can we address another issue?
Sure.
What about the men who are, quote, afraid of a professional woman?
And there are those.
Oh, definitely.
Even professional men.
A lot of men fear women who have their own career because they can't step on you. And I hate to put in that term, but a lot of men feel that they have to have that edge. And they have to be, quote, better than you are, or make more money, or they are not comfortable in the relationship. And I have a problem with that, because I don't feel that we as women, because we have chosen to elevate our life, you know, to our highest good, I don't feel that we should have to be stepped on. We don't have to apologize for being high achievers. And that's the problem that I'm having with a lot of single men who don't quite have it on the ball, that they can't handle you.
So you feel like you're willing to work with them, but you feel that they may be a little threatened by your law degree.
If they don't have that edge that they're making more money or that they have more degrees, they feel threatened because they can't, like Felicia said earlier, they can't manipulate
That's why they like the younger women.
Sure.
They haven't learned yet that you can really stand up for yourself. and that if you don't want this person laying around your house, then you don't have to have them. You know?
Lacey, from a sociological point of view, would you care to comment on that?
Well, I think the responses that were given by each of them indicates that, well, comes back to the question that you asked earlier about the difficulties in professional black women finding a mate. The quantity or the number of men who are available is one dimension of the concern, but another dimension, of course, relates to compatibility, relates to the notion of the personal qualities and the match between personal qualities of females versus males. I think that however, in terms of trying to define the problem or the situation that faces professional black men and middle-class black men and black women, in terms of their finding a person, the question, of course, relates to whether or not they are looking for companionship in terms of just friendship, whether they're looking for a person for a more long-term kind of a relationship and so forth. And there are a lot of areas that both males and females need to look at as it relates to their putting their lives into perspective in terms of humanity and just relating on a human basis versus the whole notion of consciously and totally directing their lives in that one dimension, as is sometimes misconstrued, I think.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We've been talking about black singles over 30, dating and marriage. Be sure to join us next week. We'll talk with several single black men about the man shortage from the man's point of view. Hope to see you then. Bye-bye.